Hello and welcome to On the Sunny Side. I'm Sunnie Groeneveld. I'm an entrepreneur and Forbes Under 30 list maker. And every week here on F15, I interview people who are shaping the digital economy and who are using tech for good.
And just a minute now, Sunnie. If I'm not mistaken, it's an anniversary today.
And this is one of my first guests, Chris. Wow, so good to have you back.
Hello. I'm glad I could come back and interrupt your gig here because you have had a great run this past year interviewing amazing change makers, and you are one yourself. So we're going to turn the tables back on you today. All right?
All right.
So, if I'm not mistaken, you usually start off with a series of questions.
I do.
And we're going to do the same today. So, you have three options: the beach, the bathtub, or the Bergen. Which are you going to choose?
I'll go for the beach because I haven't been at the seaside for over a year now because of COVID, and I can't wait to be back.
Yeah, that's the truth. And so then, yellow sand, white sand, or black sand. If you're going to go to a beach, you might as well choose which one, right?
Right. I'm going to go for white sand.
White sand. Ooh.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, the honeymoon sand, as we'd call it. Yeah. Then we've got clowns, crowds, or clouds. Which would you prefer to see tomorrow?
I mean, if we get a COVID-free world, crowds any day, every day, hopefully. But I think these days, quite frankly, without a vaccine just yet, gonna go for the clouds.
But definitely not the clowns. So you're not in.
No, I'll do some daydreaming.
Okay. You go. Good. Daydreaming is good. I can go with that. Okay, last one with these sort of trilogies: the moon, Mars, or Montreal.
So I've had a guest who was close enough to the moon, out in space, repairing a telescope. Mars just, still feels like a little inhabitable. I mean, pretty tough. So I think I'm going to be, the boring one and go to Montreal, where I've actually never been. So it would be an adventure for me.
Montreal's not boring at all. Montreal is a beautiful city. It's a great jazz scene, especially if you go in winter. They have a festival, and so
It's a good choice.
Yeah, I'd love to go. I'd love to go.
All right.
So here's a serious question, which you also ask all of your guests: is what is success to you, Sunnie Groeneveld?
Well, it's a good question.
Well,
No, I don't want to pat myself on the back here, but no, really, to me, success is doing things I care about with people I care about, and if I can do that for the rest of my life, I'll be, the most successful person I know.
Well, I think all of us will wish you that success. That's a great definition. So, one success has been this past year.
It has been. It really has been. It's been such a pleasure to do this. It's been such an experiment too. But
all right, now,
Why in the world did you do this? I mean, come on. Where did the idea come from? Where did it go? How did it go?
well, I mean, to be frank, in March 2020, I was supposed to give a keynote at a Forbes summit. And Forbes then, of course, as every event pretty much in March 2020, canceled the event. And about a month later, just such an entrepreneurial team, they came back and they said, hey, we're launching something called F15. It's going to be this new digital TV channel, and we're going to have these 15-minute segments, people basically creating a TV station out of their living room. I mean, what else are we supposed to be doing these days? We're all at home. And Zoom was, the new cool thing that was getting us through this time. And so why not basically use Zoom and interview people around the world, come up with a format. And I just went with it. I was like, okay, well, I guess if I'm not anymore going to be speaking on stages or hosting events or panels, then might as well try this, might as well see what it takes and whether it's even possible. And it was really just a thing where it's like, well, let's try an episode, and if that works, we'll do another, and if that works, we'll do a third, and here we are, and it's an year.
And almost a year later, and you've had almost 40 guests talking about their digital journey, their disruption, their changes, which they've made. If you look back over the past year, what would you say were some of the commonalities or the common characteristics that your guests shared?
At the end of the day, I think many of these people show up in the world, work hard, are putting in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, or have put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, because they believe that they can use technology to, in one way or another, really help humans. Mm-hmm. And I think that is where I think, where on the Sunnie side tries to highlight those personal journeys, and also tries to tease out some of the lessons, some of the insights, some of the advice that these people have gathered over the years of their journey.
Mm-hmm. So were there any of these specific lessons that you heard that stuck with you, or did it become sort of this big resonating, go change the world?
If I think back to our episode, one thing that, if I recall correctly, you love to say is, the future is a story we all write. And I remember, hearing that line and thinking that that's just such a powerful line. And specifically also in times of this incredible uncertainty. And, hearing about how you were at the time looking at COVID and looking at these big changes as a futurist yourself, really trying to make sense of this world that was in a complete new situation. That was really insightful. I loved our conversation. There was Claude Nicollier, who, being an astronaut, the first and only ever Swiss astronaut to go to space, just if you watch the episode, you'll see like the twinkle in his eyes, like when he talks about going to space and repairing the Hubble telescope, which he was working on. And so that's just, even through Zoom, even through all the distance that we've had over the past year, like just experiencing that and feeling that in just 15 minutes was really moving and something that still inspires me.
That was a really great talk. I agree with that. So I want to turn to you for a minute, and that is. This is when the interviewer gets I get to ask you. So when you think back, at how you got started, because you have been focusing mostly on entrepreneurs, right? And you're an entrepreneur. So what drove you to become an entrepreneur?
Two things. One, I really enjoy taking an idea, any idea, and trying to figure out, how do we make this actually happen? That's just, to me, like, other people, I don't know, they get into this flow moment when they watch a movie, or like when they go ice skating, or, but to me, this is the coolest thing. Just this, how do we actually make this happen? Like, let's pretend we could do this. How would we do it? And just doing that process again and again and again has been something that, as an entrepreneur, you thankfully have to figure out time and again as new challenges arise. And so that's really, I think, in the day-to-day of it, like that's, if you wouldn't enjoy that, it'd be tough to be an entrepreneur.
And I guess these episodes are, in a way, little mini examples of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, when the first if you go back, look at the first episode I did with Pascal Kaufmann, you will see like the letters, which you see now all beautifully here, like were cut out of paper, and it's like stuck to the wall with like, like just in a way that you'd hope, they would sort of stay up for the full 15-minute segment. And I mean, yeah, it doesn't look that different to what you're seeing right now. I mean, I sent the same file to the printing company that does 3D printing, and I got this back. And so, but it was how do we make it work? If we don't yet, I didn't know there were printing companies who do these. They exist, by the way. But I Googled this later on. Like, I didn't know how to, get the sound quality as good as it is right now. So now I have a professional microphone. The first episode, the sound just happened through my laptop, which was, not that optimal, but it worked.
Laptop sound. We all know that sound. Yes.
Yeah, and so I think it's like, okay, so how can we make it work, and then how can we make it better, and then how can we make it even better, and then it becomes an iterative process, and I just happen to enjoy that, and so that's one thing. And then the other thing is I love working with people who I truly care about as human beings, and it's been just such a pleasure. Really, we're a small team. But still, every person on the team is like family to me, and it's just such a wonderful thing when you can do that, and that just makes all the tough times be okay.
Yeah, that's really great, because I think one can go back and see the transformation which has taken place from the first one.
Yeah, and I think what people don't see is there's Alessandra right now in the background who does all the post production on cutting some of this footage and making sure that the pictures switch, so from gallery view to full view, and it's just been such a pleasure to do these. And I do these in between my days, so sometimes I'll record them late nights, sometimes I'll record them on a quick lunch break. Every week, we're trying to figure out together what's going to work, which guests could be interesting. And so there's Valentine from the Forbes F15 team who's doing all the intros and outros. There's even in these small 15-minute segments, you think they're so simple, but really there's still a team of people trying to make sure that they come together every day. And that is, it's like a mini project every time, a mini entrepreneurial project to get one of these done.
It's a good thing that as an entrepreneur, you like to see challenges achieved and goals achieved. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to enjoy a year's worth of this. So this is to our benefit as well as to yours. I'd like to change tact for a moment. Recently, you've been talking a bit more about the difference between digitization and the digital transformation. What is that?
So the difference to me, and I think it's a very important one also to understand this show. So one is when you're talking about digitization, essentially what you're talking about is translation, translating an analog process, something that's analog into something that's digital. An example, simple example, we've probably all had it. You walk into a doctor's office, you go to the reception, the receptionist hands you a form. She may have handed you in the past a piece of paper, you need to fill it out, put in your health insurance information and so on, you hand it back. Now, digitization would be simply replacing this paper form with an iPad. Nothing has changed in terms of the process, nothing has changed in terms of the client experience, nothing has changed in terms of the business model. It's all stayed the same. It's just been translated from something analog to something digital. Digital transformation is different. Digital transformation goes further in that it, asks the general question, well, first of all, do we need to digitize it? And beyond that, is there maybe a better, smarter way of doing it given all the digital technologies that we now have? So, should we maybe think of a completely different customer experience? Do we even still need a reception? Should we think of a completely different process where we get the data from a different source, perhaps directly from the health insurance? We share the data with the health insurance. We know exactly who's coming in, and we actually don't need to give them a form every time to get the card information. Or, are we as a doctor, as a health service provider, do we actually still want to operate in a practice? Should we operate in a network? Should we offer our services through a platform? Should people be not paying for the singular doctor appointments, but should they have a subscription model where they get health services in a certain in a certain interval? And then you're starting to change the business model. And so for people who are in that business, in that transformation business, those are the people who really also need to be leaders in their field, because they're driving change and they're working with others to drive change. Whereas, in the first example, digitizing is just purely translating. And if you're in translation business, that's one thing, but it's really a very different beast, if you will, to be in the transforming business, because making change happen, as we all know, and I think everybody who's tried to change an organization, who's tried to change their country, who's tried to change even just how their family uses technology, understands just how difficult that is, and at the same time it's so insightful to also share lessons learned, to exchange on what is advice that works. How do you transform a business model effectively? How do you actually succeed in a large corporate organization when it comes to bringing in new innovative ideas? And this is things that guests on my show have all done. And so these are the conversations I'm really interested in. I'm interested in talking to transformers, people who are showing leadership and who are changing the business, the client experiences, essentially the digital economy.
I think one can safely say that you've had quite a few of those on the stage with you, or in the studio with you, and that you're one of them. That you have also been one of those who has been pushing this transformation, evangelizing even, to make sure that Switzerland and those who listen beyond understand that there's so much more to the digital than simply converting atoms to bits. And so I think we're all fortunate that you've been able to do that.
Well, thank you, really. And I mean, it's been just 15 minutes now, so this has been another On the Sunny Side episode, and certainly one for the books. Chris, thank you so much for doing this, for agreeing to being here with me on the show again. You're the only guest in this whole year who is had a second appearance, and it was just so inspiring the first time round. It's been inspiring the second time round. I'm just so grateful. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Sunnie, for the invitation. I'm very grateful to be asked back, as you are as inspiring to us all as well. So thank you for that, very much so. So
here on the Sunny Side, I am glad that we got to share this 1-year anniversary with all of you who are watching. It's just such a pleasure to also interact with some of you. If you have any feedback or comments, anything you'd like to share with us, we're always open for ideas. Do please leave a comment if you've enjoyed this conversation. Subscribe to the F15 channel. The button's just below. And I look forward to seeing you back here on the Sunny Side.